Nathalie Nelson Parker here, and it is a great Friday, Nuggets with Nathalie, with our special guest, and we're talking about how to raise 10K in 30 days. This is what I need you to do, because the nuggets that we are dropping are literally going to increase funds, maximize your mission, and make your nonprofit or your ministry more profitable. I don't want you to hoard these nuggets to yourself. So like, share, comment, tag a friend, and let them know that the GOAT, DeAndre Ash is in the house. He's going to be sharing the tricks, tips, and templates to help your nonprofit or your ministry to raise funds. And it's so effective that I used it, and we kind of 10x what the framework that you sent out. We were able to do 13K.
Wow.
So I'm a testimony that it works. So go ahead, wherever you're tuning in from, whether you're on Nathalie Nelson Parker, the professional page, or our personal page, go ahead, like, share, comment, and let's get started tonight. So how you doing, DeAndre?
Well, thanks for asking. I'm doing well in these turbulent times. I'm riding the waves. I probably have my highs and lows like everyone else, but I'm surfing though.
We are all definitely hanging in there. And you have little ones and a beautiful wife and a business. So how have you been? Just like, I don't like to say balance, because I don't think balance is a real thing. I think we kind of just manage it, right? We're stewards of what God gives us. So how are you stewarding and managing life during these times?
Yeah, there are a few things that I have going on, right? First of all, family, right? My wife, Cherie, and my daughter, Isabella. And,
hey, Isabella.
Yeah. And, after that, there's ministry, there's business, there are other interests. And so there's my nonprofit work. And so there are quite a few things going on. And I think I manage it by stepping back when I have to. That's a new skill that I learned.
Ooh, that's a skill that's hard for personalities like ours.
Absolutely, it is. It is. My tendency is to push through and plow through, but I'm finding times to step back and check on myself.
Well, that is so important. That is so important. So I wanted to talk about your book, How to Raise 10K in 30 Days.
Yeah.
And you sent this to me, I think, in December.
Yeah. Late last year sometime.
It was, and we had just started doing some of the nonprofit consultant work and having conversations about grant writing and sharing our experiences and testimonies. And so when you sent this book, it was so on time. Mm-hmm. Never did we imagine that life as we knew it was going to explode. Yeah. And so there's been some time that's passed before we've been able to talk about it, but I'm so glad that we've reconnected. Can you talk a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how those experiences inspired you to write How to Raise 10K in 30 Days?
Yeah, thanks. You said it. My name is DeAndre Ash, and I'm a missional artist. I can hardly draw a lick, but I consider myself and my business partner, my brother Dinar, we consider ourselves to be missional artists. And that means that something wells up in our heart to create, whether it be a book, a school, a business, a sermon, whatever it is, we create it. And we measure our success not always by transactions or by the appeal that it gains by the masses, but we measure our success by how closely what we create matches what's in our heart to do. And so, but that's been my pattern. And so I measure my successes and failures differently. And but I consider myself a missional artist, and I came to write How to Raise 10K in 30 Days, Nathalie, because I've served as a pastor, I serve as a nonprofit leader, I'm an entrepreneur, and there are times that you have to raise money from nothing, from literally nothing. I work for an organization with a $26 million endowment. But I think I wrote this book from a place for the folks who have $26. and or folks who've been at the place and they know what it is to have $26. And I wanted to make sure that my experience, things that I've learned over the years, that I put in kind of a practical steps in a small book that people can read and raise money and find the right pockets and networks to get the money that they need to do what God put in their heart to do.
I love that. I love that phrase, missional artist. And so the question out to those who are watching, what's the phrase that describes you and your work, right? Because sometimes, particularly for those of us who may at this moment in context be at that place where it's $26, right? We can have a scarcity mindset. But there's something powerful about the perspective of saying I'm a missional artist.
That's right.
That I can create no matter what the environment around me says. That, during this pandemic, this is the time to create. That during the time where the environment may not be conducive, that you have the perspective and the spiritual insight to know that those are the experiences, not only that God does that God's best work, but you can.
This is absolutely the best time to pull something from the spirit world and manifest it. This is absolutely the best time. And I think, I don't know if I could have said it any better, but I think the heart of this book is walking people and teaching people, first of all, that you can create something from where you are. You can pull something out of yourself, and you can create the type of, whether it be product or ask, that draws people to give and support what it is that you're doing.
Yeah. And that's amazing. And what I really love about the book, one, I'm a practical person. And so it is super practical. You can see it's thin, but it's power packed. That's my son in the back. But you also kind of give this framework that I really love. So you have the days of the week, and you use the days of the week to kind of show people where they should be putting their energy to ultimately reach the goal of how to raise $10K in 30 days. Can you talk a little bit about your missional artistry and why you kind of frame the book in that way?
Yeah. The book is designed to act. It's about acting. And you can read the book and plan your project, or you can read the book. It's really designed for you on Monday to do Monday, on Tuesday to do Tuesday, and to get rolling. But it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and each one of those days represent something. Monday being mission. And in the book, I give you a framework, a way to, really a rubric to write out your mission and to think about your mission in different ways. I invite you to think about what you do. For instance, I was a part of starting a school for boys in 2016. And I began to write out what it is that I did every day. And I started first with teaching, but I had to step back and say, no, that's not what I do. I get to the school at 5:50 a.m. because though the after school the morning program, the before school program starts at 7, I have a parent who has to drop their child off at 6. So I get there at 5:50 and I sweep. And I open the doors and I make sure that all the trash is pulled. And so I really thought about what it is that I do, not just on a big scale, but on a small scale. And so I kind of help you walk through how to craft your mission on Monday, to think about what it is that you actually do in a way that's attractive to people who are listening. And Tuesday is for team. That T in Tuesday is for team. And Nathalie, I think team is the most important step. I tell a story in the book that we were doing at a school that I was working at. We were doing a fundraiser, and our goal was $10,000. And everybody didn't think we can raise $10,000, but we put that team together. And before we even launched our event date, we were at $2,000 because the team was energized by the thought, by the idea, by the activity. And really that team is key. Thinking about the people that you poured into, that have invested in you in the past, those people who you've kind of built relationship with, and invite them. Tell them what you're doing. Tell them specifically, I got some steps in the book. I tell you how to text people. what to text them, what to email them to ask them to be a part of, how to ask them to be a part of what it is that you're doing. And in most cases, when you put your team together, you've already won when you put your team together, if you put the right team together. And the Wednesday is for why. And I ask you to think about why people should give to what it is that you're doing. People are afraid to ask for money. I grew up seven of eight children in Decatur, Georgia. And we didn't have much. Thank God my family has progressed. My nuclear family and my own family has progressed by the grace of God. But my relationship with money was odd. I thought that people had the same relationship with money that I had. And so I thought that people would not easily give to support because they didn't have it. And that framed how I asked people and if I asked people for a certain thing. But in the book, I show you how to ask, to think about why people should give to what it is that you're doing. And I gave an example, the why, for example, for the school that I was a part of starting, that we had a student who was put out of public schools in the city of Atlanta. And his grandma brought him to our school and wanted a place for him to be able to go because he didn't have a place to go. And this kid was talented musically. He was talented academically. He was literally, this guy's a star. You're going to see him one day. He's a star. And I thought about our why is because students like Jay deserve a second chance. Students like Jay deserve a school, an environment that cares about them. And so that was our why. So I wove that into the way that I asked people to support. I told the story about Jay. The Thursday is for throw a party. And that may be hard to do. That may be hard to do in the COVID environment, right? But the idea, what's that?
We actually threw a virtual happy hour. So we threw a virtual party.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the whole idea is to have a date. To have a day that energizes the team, that informs the team, that gives the people that you're asking for support from, that gives them a deadline. People need deadlines, and that gives you a target goal. And so you set a day. And on that day in the book, I give you a list of things that you should have set up on that day, like a tracker. And the Friday is for follow-up. And I can't underestimate how important follow-up is. And I learned this from working in, not just from on the ground, but for working for other organizations. They have systems in place. They have software. You don't have software, a spreadsheet, or just be a great note taker. You got to follow up. There are people that you ask for money that can't give it to you right now, but they can give it to you later. They mean it. They can give it to you later. There are people who will tell you no right now, but they'll tell you yes in 7 days. You keep them on your radar. You keep them on your email list. You keep them on your call list. And so that follow up is critically important. And I put it like this. If you have a goal of raising $10,000 in 30 days, and on that 30th day, you have $7,000, you probably got another $7,000 in the follow-up. You have another $7,000 in the folks that haven't given yet, and you have another $7,000 in the folks who have already given. If somebody has given your organization $5, they will give $50. If someone is giving $50, they have the capacity. If their first gift was $50, they got a capacity to give $500. You just got to find a way to help make yourself and your organization a priority in their lives.
That's so good. Can you talk a little bit about the strategy of that? How do you make for lack of a better word, a tipper into a committed donor to push the extra mile on the initial gift?
Well, it's two things. Number one, you got to model the consistency. You got to model the consistency that you want to see. So, for instance, you tell them thank you by email, by phone, by whatever way, and you tell them thank you again later. And then later on, you tell them 30 days out, you tell them what you did with that gift. 30 days, another 30 days out, you tell them what you would do with another gift. And so you just model that consistency. You stay consistent. And another thing, I think this is huge. And a lot of organizations miss out on it. I think even big organizations miss out on this. You cannot overvalue a big gift and undervalue a small gift.
Come on.
Yeah, you gotta. If somebody gives you that person who's giving you $10, like that $10 means something to them. And so you got to value. I give to several organizations because I just want to be plugged in to what it is that they're doing. And frankly, I want to learn. So I might give $20. I might give $50 just to see how they respond to my $20 gift. I got an email from a campaign yesterday from something that I gave to last year, and I was excited to give again because they recognized that I gave last time. And so you gotta appreciate the small gifts that people give to you. When somebody gives 10 or 20, look, I act like it's 200 or 200,000. I'm so appreciative because I've been a part of organizations where the internal talk in the group when we're going through over donations, it's like, these are the $20 people, these are $30 people, and these are the thousandaires. And so it's important, I guess, for record keeping to categorize people, but you got to give people the same type of appreciation no matter what level, no matter what level they give.
I love that. And I think it's so important. And what, this experience has really showed us is that the transaction of the giving is a reflection of the transformation in the relationship.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
You understand that though money is the item that's being exchanged, it's really the relationship and the partnership that you're building. And so for us, now that we have a team, because I spent a lot of time doing it alone. And so I'm so excited about, like you said, that energy and excitement that comes when you have a team to work with you. But for me, I think what was really amazing was to see how, and we really asked our donors at the end of the virtual happy hour, are you all in?
Wow.
And to see hashtag all in, and like the follow-up emails and then the partnership conversations and like people asking, when's the registration platform opening up? And I'm like getting emotional about it, but to see that the work that you're doing is so much bigger than that transaction of money.
That's right.
That mission is alive and something in the world.
Y'all, you did it the right way. I remember, when we first started Ash Academy, I had folks who would come and say, let's go visit Tyler Perry. Let's go talk to Tyler Perry. I had a parent schedule a meeting with me. Yeah, I had a
That's my favorite part of the book. Tell the story, and then I'll read this part of the book.
Yeah, I had a parent to say, I want to meet with you. I got an idea. And I interrupted, what I was doing that day and met with her. And she said, let's go down to Tyler Perry Studios and let's take a tour and then let's talk to Tyler. And people have this idea that, there's a person that's going to come in. That happens. But you have to get that. There's a person that's going to come in, just write the big check. And that happens. But that's not the tried way to build your group. Your group and your givers are already around you. You're talking about that excited group. You have to mine, M-I-N-E. You have to dig and cultivate the relationships that you've already had. Your $50,000 is in that 50. It is in that 50. Your 50,000 is in that 50. Your 500,000 might be in that 50. And so then that'll get Tyler Perry's attention, right? when you're doing the work and exciting the people that are around you, they'll talk to Tyler Perry for you.
And so that was the step 4. And I loved that part of the book. It says, inexperienced fundraisers bet on a big celebrity gift that brings resources and notoriety in one fell swoop. Yeah. But you're building the long game, right?
The long
game. And I love that. And that is so good. And then you talked about also in that same step 4 on how to maximize on the seasons, on the calendar, like just things that are already happening and how you can leverage that to ignite giving. Can you talk about, particularly during this context where there's a lot of people that are scaling back, that are cutting their prices, that are afraid to ask because of what's going on globally? How can you maximize that even during this time to leverage your mission for your nonprofit or your ministry?
Yeah, I planted a church a while ago, and one of the things that I did not want to do was I didn't want to have sermons based on the season and series based on the season, and this is back to church Sunday. And so I would kind of go against the grain on that until I learned like it's okay to look at the calendar and capitalize. And I don't say this with no shame. I look at the calendar and say, this is payday for a lot of people. This is the end of the month. This is the first month. This is the second week of the month. And so be okay with looking at the calendar and the kind of natural rhythm of life, to thinking about the times where people are excited about giving, whether people are excited about sowing and looking for opportunities to partner. Look at the natural calendar. And I think what's good about right now is every day is a good time. And it's like time is condensed. It feels so long, but time is passing by so quickly. And I think it's okay to move right now. It's just a good time to move. It's a good time to connect with people virtually and take advantage of this space while people are here and dedicating their time to be here. It's a great opportunity to do the virtual events and to reach people virtually and to make your appeal virtually and to make those connections virtually. It's a great time for action right now.
I love that. And when you wrote the book, we were in such a different place than where we are now. How have you seen kind of the providence of what you set out to help people do then, and how has it evolved now, particularly as we have this conversation around equity and inclusion and diversity? How to raise 10K in 30 days kind of speak to that context now?
Yeah. One word comes to mind for me, and that word is justice. And I think of justice in a cosmic way, kind of, that Kingian justice that it may take a while, but it ultimately comes. And it's not our work, but it's the work of it's God's work. It's God's righteousness, aligning things on our behalf. And it's about time that people have the resources that they need. To me, justice is access. To me, justice is, I can't separate justice. I cannot separate justice from cash. Cannot separate justice from cash, because that's the currency by which we secure our lives, that we secure our families, by which we give our bodies what it needs. And I think God is playing a role in this season. And I think if you're courageous enough to do and to ask and to start and to respond and not be paralyzed by fear, not be paralyzed by time. There's at Columbia Theological Seminary, there's a lady named Dr. Marcia Riggs, and she has something called religious ethical mediation, and it's based on these dialogue principles that folks from different backgrounds and perspectives can come together and have a conversation, and that conversation can move people along, whether it be closer to each other or closer to a more just idea. And I asked her one time, I said, how is it that you can suggest that I can go into a room with somebody who's opposed to my freedom, who's opposed to my personhood, who's opposed to me having all of the liberties that are afforded to me in this nation? How can you suggest that I go into this dialogue or in this conversation in this space with an open heart, expecting the best from them? And she has a diagram where she has justice working in the background, and she has the Holy Spirit working in the background, and she has all of these things that are working together to make that conversation, to make that movement, to make that transaction happen in your favor. And I kind of conceptualize where we are right now at a time. I think we're at a critical time, man. We're at a time where literally oppression is meeting force from folks who don't have it. And we have to be involved. We have to be involved in the collision. And sometimes that collision all the time looks like being bold. That collision all the time, it looks like putting up your website. It looks like not having everything that you think you need and doing it anyway. It looks like having the courage beyond your credit. It looks like having courage beyond what you think your background is, and whatever it is that's on your heart to do it. And I think that's how we meet this moment. I think that's the way justice is meted out cosmically, that we have to show up in the moment with all that God has invested in us, and we got to do it. And we got to do it.
And can you talk a little bit about how to raise 10K in 30 days is justice work? And I say that because I had posted somewhere, that we raised 13K in 7 days. And then someone set up a consultation with me. And she said, I just wanted to call to see if you were telling the truth.
Wow.
And for me, it was like, that's why your nonprofit don't have no money, because the mindset, right? The perspective isn't all the way there. And so for people who have that kind of perspective that, it's not about ministry, it's not about money, it's not about money, but you need money to do ministry in a transformational way, in an expansive way, in an inclusive way. So can you talk a little bit about why this book and these principles are a work of justice and equity for our communities?
Yeah, and I do some work in this book, trying to strengthen people to build that character, to believe that they are worthy, to believe themselves that they are coming from a good place. And when they invite people, it's not even about asking; it's about inviting people to come along with you as you do the good work that God has called you to do. And man, a part of it is justice, because it's building the person who's doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's building them to believe that they are worthy. And I believe justice, I believe opportunity, I believe access. I believe all of these things can pass the person by who does not believe that they are worthy. And I think about all the opportunities, all of the cash that's floating around in the economy right now that is being shifted from hand to hand, place to place, person to person, institution to institution. I think that the person that thinks that they're worthy to step into that economic flow, whether it be institutional, whether it be person to person, the person that thinks that they're worthy and steps into it will step into their stream, and they can realize in this time, what it is that God called them. They can manifest what it is that God has called them to do in this earth in their lifetime. I think this book builds people up in that way.
Yeah, and not just builds people up, right? Because when you're built up and you're very clear about that mission, that translates, that is currency, right? And so for us, for our team, we were just like, and I'm getting emotional every time I think about it, because I understand, like, that's more scholarships.
Yes.
That's more internships.
Yes.
That's more transformational leaders develop. That's more transformational experiences where young adults who were once broken are whole. And so if we don't change our mindset, we are not just robbing ourselves of being built up, but we're robbing our communities of being built up. We're robbing our churches from being built up. And so if anybody's out there and you're a ministry leader and you're a nonprofit leader and you're at the place where you're like draining your own funds to make this work, we thank you for your dedication, but we want to also challenge you to step out, to gain a new perspective, to gain some principles and some skills to help you create a sustainable ministry, a sustainable nonprofit. Go ahead, bro. Jump in.
Yeah, Nathalie. I've met lots of people with good hearts and good ideas, and man, the only thing that they're missing really is the funds. Because you've seen it. You've seen organizations who are doing work with $1 million, and you say to yourself, if I had 10%, if I had half of what it is, I'll make this million look like $10 million. And so there are lots of people with good ideas, with good hearts, but they just don't have the know-how of how to raise money. And, people say they want to start a nonprofit. They don't understand that most nonprofits are started because people have a money problem.
Mm-hmm.
Not the money problem that you think. Their problem is they got too much money. And they need to find something to do with that money. They need to, Bill and Melinda Gates, look, they didn't have to raise that money. They were dumping that money. I mean, I no doubt that they're doing good work. I believe it's God's work. And but their nonprofits didn't start because, you know, they didn't have money. Their money problem, they had too much. They had to find something to do with it. But most folks are coming from the other perspective, where their money problem is they don't have the money to do the good work that they're called to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's possible. There are simple steps that you can take to raise the money that you need to do the work that you're called to do. It's possible to do.
And there's some people, I would say there's a third person in there. There's a person there that has the idea, that has the mission, that has the skills, the gifts, and the talents, but they haven't started because they don't have the money.
Wow. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you have to start because the mission attracts money.
It does. It does.
Not the idea that's in your head, but the actual doing the work will bring the resources and the currency and and also the social capital. Because let's not get it twisted. There's the money currency, but there's also the social and the political capital.
That's right.
People being attached to that mission that will take it to another level.
Yeah, absolutely.
So shout out to Cecil at Howard University, Associate Chaplain. He said, great conversation. We're so appreciative that you joined us today. Legacy said, thanks for hosting this. I'm so thankful to have DeAndre here, and we hope that it's been helpful for you. If you have any questions, go ahead, drop them in the comments. We have about 2 more minutes with DeAndre, and he has to get home to his beautiful and Isabella. Because it's been a long work day. But as people are dropping comments, if they have any, give us one last nugget to encourage nonprofit leaders as well as mission-based ministries on how to use these 5 steps to reach their fundraising goals.
Do it and do it quickly. Like, do it in 30 days. I'm all for 5-year plans. I'm all for 10. Those are necessary. But do it and do it quickly. Because when you do it, you're going to learn, you're going to form your team, and you're going to raise money in 30 days. Like do it now. Don't waste time doing it. Assemble your team together. Make sure your team is energized. And I just, like, most of the time, before that 30 days hit, Nathalie, you're already, 25, 40% of the way there because you've chosen the right people to be a part of the work that you're called to do. And if I had to say one more thing, I would say this. Don't be afraid to ask people for money. Don't be afraid to ask people for support. People think more highly of you than you think.
That's a word. Ooh, that hit my shondo.
People think more highly of you than you think. And the fact that you got the audacity to do something and to try something and to ask them, you're putting them in a place. You're making them feel a certain kind of way, but a good way, because you have the audacity to do work. You have the audacity to ask, and I show you in this book how to ask. And ask people. Get your mission tight and solidified. Then ask people for the support that it is that you need. Ask. And I've raised money in different contexts. And the one common thing is just people are afraid to ask for money because they don't know how to ask. I lay it out really plainly in this book, how to ask for money.
Not only do you lay it out plain, but you make it so practical and multifaceted for different types of people. So there's like graphs, and then there's like journaling, and then there's like stories. Oh, and that's one other thing. I know I'm gonna let you go, but the questions that you ask in this book helps people to create the stories that matter.
That's right.
To the people that are giving.
That's right. That's exactly
it. In a subversive way, and I was saying to you before we got on the call, is that when we raised $13K, I was like, yes, me and my team. And then I was like, Bruh, I gotta tell DeAndre, I read this book, so I did use his methods. So I had to stop it. We were feeling ourselves, but I was like, nah, I read the book. So osmosis kicked in and we used the strategy. So I really love that. So tell people where they can get the book, how they can follow you and stay connected with you.
Yeah, you can get the book at howtoraise10k.com. You can get the book at howtoraise10k.com. And follow me if you choose to follow me on social media. Follow X Creative Spaces, and that's the co-work space that I co-founded with my brother and business partner in the heart of Atlanta, in Edgewood, in the Auburn Avenue MLK district. We're down here doing work, carrying on that legacy, and so X Creative Spaces.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you, DeAndre. We thank all of you who have watched, who have participated. Shout out to all of you, world changers, inspirators, transformers that are doing amazing work wherever it is God has called you to serve, whether you're a nonprofit leader, whether you are a faith-based organization or a ministry. I want you to know that there's nothing standing in your way between your leading and your funding needs other than information and strategy. And that's why people like DeAndre and I are here to help you reach the goals, because after all, we need you to make a difference and be the world changer that God has called you to be. Well, that's it. That's all. Says the clock on the wall. Let us know that you enjoyed this in the comment section. Go ahead, continue to like, share, drop your questions. We'll come back and we'll answer them. And I'll see you next week. All week long, we'll be talking about diversity, inclusion, and equity. Next week, we're going to be talking to an amazing entrepreneur about how she has leveraged her marketing and her social media to make a difference and build a tribe, particularly for female bosses out there. So we're going to have a conversation about gender equality, which is really important because today is Pay Women the Right Way Day.
I'm about to cash out my wife now.
And so make sure you catch us next week, same time, same place. That's it. That's all. You have a great weekend. And remember, transformation starts with you.
Blessings. Thank you, Nathalie.